Hey, Kevin here, Skylabs, bringing you another video. This is definitely going to be a fun one. Just going to highlight a couple turntables from one of my favorite manufacturers from the 70s. We're going to go over the Sansui SR838 and the SR929. This will be fun. Check it out. And both of these turntables I own. I've owned the SR838 for a while now, I believe maybe 8-9 years. Again, I bought this before Skylabs was even a thought. And the SR929 I just recently purchased from David, who has a YouTube channel called My Own Devices. At the end of the video, I'll go over that story a little bit more, and I'm going to unpack it. And I think it's pretty impressive the job David did packing this turntable. I was more than happy to pay the extra shipping costs to get it here safely. So stick around, you're going to want to see that. It's probably one of the best turntable packaging jobs I've ever seen. And both the 929 and the 838 are both quartz lock direct drive turntables. They're fully manual. You have no creature comforts. Nothing's going to help you place the tone arm. Nothing's going to help you return it at the end. But what you get are a couple really well-built turntables. Both of these turntables are very large, around 17 inches wide and 15 inches deep. Both of these flagship turntables are considered very rare to the online community, and why they may be rare compared to more of the popular Technics and dual turntables out there. At the time of recording this video, there were 9 929s and 10 838s. If you compare those numbers to the Pioneer PL570, their flagship around the same era, and another top-end competitor, Kenwood, a 5070, there weren't any at the time of making this video. And really the biggest difference between those turntables would be that the Pioneer and the Kenwood are fully automatic and the Sansuis are full manual. And that's going to play a part in my theory on why there's more Sansuis. And I think you already know why, but we'll get into that. And really maybe one of the smartest choices Sansui did make with their flagship turntables was making them manual. Because I do think that is what's keeping these numbers up, because I do not think Sansui outsold Pioneer and Kenwood and turntables. It was really tough to find an MSRP on these turntables, so unfortunately I can't reference the prices of all four. If somebody's got that information and can put it in the comments, that would be great. I looked for quite a while and just gave up. Sometimes that information is just not out there. And because, like we've talked about in previous videos, adding the complexity of automatic functions a lot of times can render a turntable unrepairable. I'm not saying that with the Kenwood or the Pioneer, but there could have been a time in the 80s or 90s when records were really falling off, and maybe somebody had a Pioneer 570 that wasn't working anymore and just decided to throw it away. And that might have kept an owner of a 929 or an 838 from throwing theirs out, being they were still working, and maybe just set them on a shelf. And in the next generation, Sansui did switch to automatic turntables with the XR7 and the XR9. And as of right now on eBay, there aren't any available for sale. This is all just my theory. It could be something completely different, but it seems logical to me that most problems with turntables generally have to do with the automatic functions, as by design, turntables, in my opinion, are a pretty simple electronic device. That's my take on it. That's all I got. All right, so with all that out of the way, let's get into the good stuff. Let's get into what's really important about a turntable, and that's the way it looks. You all can have your own opinion on one sounds better than the other. If a turntable's doing its job to alleviate any outside frequencies, keep vibrations at a minimum, keep a consistent speed, and not introduce noise from its motor or drive into the tone arm, then it's done its job. Because this allows you to hear the sound of the cartridge and the record. And if you're with me and you agree that looks play a pretty big part in purchasing stereo equipment, it's hard to deny the looks and the aesthetics of these two turntables. You have to at least be able to look at these turntables from the mid-70s and go, okay, those look like really, really quality turntables. You can just tell by looking at them. Personally, I love the piano black finish on both of these. They have a really good feel to them. Sansui did a really good job of making sure that when you interact with this turntable or lift the tone arm or push the buttons, that it feels premium, like the turntable looks. I don't think either of these turntables really cut any corners. And in my opinion, Sansui just nailed both of them in style and design. And there have been a lot of times we've had customers come in and they'll say, I'm looking for a Sansui turntable. And I'll usually say, you should look for a 929 or an 838. The way I describe the 929 is usually if Darth Vader had a turntable, he would have an SR 929. And while I can't imagine anything Darth Vader would listen to, I don't see him being a Boston or a Journeys fan. Maybe like Rise of the Valkyries on repeat or something like that. And with the other one, the SR 838, that one goes right to Tony Montana's mansion down in Miami. Even though I think the SR 838 is more sophisticated looking than the 929, and I definitely don't think Tony Montana is more sophisticated than Darth Vader. But yeah, I don't know. You got any suggestions of what Tony Montana and Darth Vader listen to? Put them in the comments. Or if you think they'd use a different turntable, put that in the comments. And like always, when doing these videos, I do quite a bit of research. I want to make sure everything that I've been spewing for the last few years is correct. And I had the dates incorrect on these two turntables. I thought the 838 was the older one. I thought the 929 was newer. And the next one I didn't realize was the weight of these turntables. I've moved these turntables several times. I've moved Kenwood Rocks. I've moved the Technics 1200s, the 1100s. I always thought they were kind of all similar. And I would have thought either the 1100 or the 1200 would have been the heaviest. But I was wrong about that. And honestly, the weight might be one of the better features of these two turntables, in that weight is really good for mitigation. It's good at keeping outside frequencies out, and it's good at absorbing vibration. Anybody that has to tiptoe around their turntable while it's playing knows this. You either have to walk on tiptoes, or you need to improve the isolation or the stand that it sits on. But it is definitely a lot easier to control with a heavier turntable. So let's get into the weight of these two turntables, which is really, really impressive. And we'll start with some other manufacturer flagships, just to drive the point home a little bit more, as they'd say. So the Marantz 6300 weighs 23 pounds. The Kenwood KD 2055, known as the Rock, weighs 25 pounds. The SL 1200 MK2 by Technics weighs 24 pounds. Our beloved Sansui SR 838 comes in at 28 pounds. And get this, the SR 929 weighs in at 37 pounds, which is almost 10 pounds more than the 838 and over 10 pounds more than the KD 55, the SL 1200, and the Marantz 6300. And those are all great turntables too. I mean, considering the SL 1200 is considered stage worthy, with people jumping and bouncing, the fact that the SR 929 is 37 pounds is pretty impressive. And I know there's a lot more than just weight that has to do with something being able to withstand people jumping around on a stage. You got suspension and all that kind of stuff too. I wouldn't go taking a SR 929 to go do a gig, even though I'm sure people have. It's just not meant for that. That's all. And I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, well, how do they sound? They sound really quiet, which is what I want from a turntable. I have tried a whole slew of cartridges on my 838. I've only tried one cartridge on the 929 so far, but once that one goes into regular rotation, I will be trying several on that as well. Although I doubt it really differs much from the 838. I think John Chen from Grado Labs had a really good point when he said, don't get into the weeds too much on all the details. You got to just go off what your ear tells you. And I'm in a fortunate position where I have access to quite a bit of cartridges, whether they're brand new or used. And I can try several cartridges on my turntables to see what works for me. Because a lot of times looking at an amplifier and a set of speakers, while it might not make sense on paper, sometimes two pieces of equipment just have what they call synergy, where they just work together, even though on paper they shouldn't. I have tried a lot of cartridges on the 838, including a couple that people said they wouldn't recommend. And that was the DL 103 Denon, which I liked. I liked the 160 better by Denon. I've got a Grado Blue on it right now, but my favorite was probably the Grado Prestige 3 low output. I'm pretty sure it was a 3. Yeah. But then I've also had an Ortofon Blue on it, which was okay too. And reading the forums online, when people would ask suggestions, a lot of people would recommend the Shure V15 Series 4. And I don't have one to try, or I would. I really kind of hate just taking somebody's word on a forum that I don't really know on something so subjective as audio. And if you've got a reviewer that you found to have the same tastes or ears that you do, that's great. But I wouldn't just go off what somebody you don't know online says about something, because people are wrong all the time, about a lot of things. So I agree with John. You just got to trust your ear. Don't get into the weeds too far on that stuff unless you enjoy it. If you enjoy doing the research and looking at, different compliances and that kind of thing, awesome. It's just not that fun for me. That's all. And with the Sansui 838 929, there are a couple known issues. There has to be known issues. These are 40 years old, but these are pretty light in my opinion. When you look up known issues for either of these turntables, usually people will have trouble with fluctuating speed, and it might be a transistor or capacitor or something that's failed, maybe needs replaced. These are not that complicated on the inside. And really, in all reality, any direct drive turntable is susceptible to having the same issues. I don't think these two turntables are plagued by bad capacitors or bad designs. I think it's just the age. The fact that there's so many available on eBay when I shot this video, I think is a pretty good testimony to the reliability of both these turntables. Besides the feet deteriorating on both, which once again, it's rubber from the 70s. Almost every turntable manufacturer has a few models that the feet just, you never see them in good condition. So buying some replacement feet for either one of them, that doesn't bother me a bit. I feel like I'm just improving the stability of it, buying some better feet than were maybe on it originally. So, and just a quick story about how I got the 929. When I made the turntable tier list and I talked about Sansui turntables, I talked about always wanting a 929, that I'd had an 828. And David from My Own Devices, if you haven't checked out his channel, go check it out. It's super down to earth. Really nice guy. He's just got a really laid back style to his videos, which I can definitely appreciate. David reached out because he watched the video and heard me say that I've been looking for a 929. And he said, I've got a 929 I'm going to sell. And I said, well, I would like to buy it. So we had a quick discussion. We talked about horror stories with shipping. And David said, look, I've shipped a lot of turntables. I can ship this thing. I can ship it for war if you're willing to, pay the high shipping costs. And I said, I would rather have a very expensive shipping bill than have another one of these get lost. So that's what David did. And the turntable showed up in a box that looked like it literally could have had a college refrigerator in it. So check out the video. This is us unboxing it. Thanks for watching another video. Do appreciate it. You still got time to vote on your favorite semi-automatic turntable of all time. Go ahead and leave it down in the description of this video. We just need the make and the model of your favorite semi-auto turntable from any era. It doesn't matter. As long as at the end of the record, the tone arm lifts up, or at the end of the record, the tone arm lifts up and returns the tone arm, that's semi-auto, at least in my eyes and most people's. So, and I'll shut up now. Check out this packaging. It's crazy. Thank you.